The family favorite parade. Let's start with the obvious, shall we? I spent 10 solid years of my life, my actual limited edition, can't get it back life, loyally serving our family company. That's a whole decade of spreadsheets, boardrooms, forced small talk, and pretending to be impressed by team-building retreats. No parties, no spontaneous travel, no gap years spent finding myself in Bali. Just me, grafting away while my soul withered like a houseplant in a windowless cubicle. And my brother? Oh, bless him. He spent those same 10 years on what I can only assume was a global disappointment tour. New country, same lack of purpose. He once tried to open a vegan food truck in Berlin and somehow managed to set it on fire. Not even while cooking, just fire, casual blaze. Told everyone it was a rebranding exercise. So imagine my absolute delight, nay, spiritual awakening, when our dear father, benevolent dictator and part-time philosopher of questionable logic, announced he was stepping down. And naming my brother as CEO, yes, the same brother who once confused a balance sheet with a restaurant bill, the one who thinks synergy is a type of energy drink. That brother. Dad said, and I quote, "He needs this. It'll build character." Ah, yes. Because nothing builds character quite like being handed an entire company you've never contributed to, like a toddler being trusted with a chainsaw, because he'll learn responsibility. And me? I just stood there blinking in fluent betrayal, wondering if anyone else could hear the internal screaming. Nepotism, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a ladder, it's an escalator. And some of us are just standing on the wrong side, politely letting it crush our will to live. Surprise, you're fired. Fast forward to my brother's first day as CEO, or as I now call it, Judgment Day Family Edition. There he was, installed in his new office, a glass-walled monstrosity designed less for productivity and more for passive-aggressive intimidation. Honestly, it looked less like a workplace and more like a Bond villain's Airbnb. He summoned me in, like a medieval monarch with an iPad, and sat there, legs crossed, desk slightly too tidy, which is always a red flag, isn't it? I walked in expecting, I don't know, maybe a conversation, a handshake, a token gesture of civility from the man who once ate glue and blamed it on me. Instead, with the poise and self-importance of a toddler in a suit, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're a burden to this company." A burden? Me? 10 years of holding the circus together with duct tape and emotional damage, and now I'm suddenly excess baggage? Right, cool. He fired me on the spot. No warning, no discussion. No thank you card with a passive-aggressive best of luck, scrawled in biro, not even a Tesco meal deal to soften the blow. Just corporate execution served cold, with a side of familial backstabbing. I half expected confetti to fall from the ceiling. Maybe a little jingle, "Congratulations. You've just been betrayed by your bloodline." And the worst part? He looked proud, like he'd just done something brave. Instead of committing emotional arson in a three-piece suit he definitely didn't pay for. I stood there, absorbing the blow with all the composure of a soggy rich tea biscuit, and realized this was no longer a job. This was a plot twist, and I was now the villain in someone else's self-deluded hero story. The walk of silent rage. I walked out of that office like I was in a slow-motion film. You know, the kind where the underdog finally escapes, chin held high, cue the swelling music and meaningful looks. Except in my version there was no music. Just the mental soundtrack of screaming into a pillow and biting back tears, like they were unpaid invoices. My shoes squeaked loudly, because of course they did. Nothing says dignity in defeat like echoing squeaky footsteps and trying to look composed while your entire life collapses behind a pane of safety glass. People stared, not out of pity, and don't be ridiculous. This wasn't empathy. This was entertainment. I'd become the company's live drama broadcast, airing exclusively in the corridor between finance and the grim vending machine that only sells disappointment and out-of-date hula hoops. A few people tried the classic sad nod wing, you know, the one where their eyes say, "Oh no," but their mouths say, absolutely nothing, because no one wants to get involved when HR's watching. And then, the cherry on this emotionally scorched cake, an HR intern, who I swear still uses TikTok to make PowerPoints, whispered as I passed, "Oof, brutal." Oof, brutal. 2 syllables, delivered with all the sincerity of a reality TV contestant consoling the person they just voted off. I hope her chai latte was cold. I hope it had gone full lukewarm despair. Just like the corporate loyalty I once believed in. And me, I just kept walking, Past the potted plants I watered more than my own personal relationships. Past the team who used to CC me into everything. Past the motivational poster that said, "Failure is a stepping stone to success," which felt like a personal attack. Quite frankly, I didn't look back, because if I had, I might have flipped a table, or cried, or both. Probably both. The stages of corporate grief. I went home. Not in the fresh start, new chapter way. No, I went home in the barely removed my shoes, collapsed on the sofa with one sock halfway off, holding a mug I didn't remember making sort of way. I sat there staring into my tea like it held answers. It didn't. It held exactly what my life now held. Bitter disappointment, a weird film on top, and absolutely no milk. And then it began, the inevitable psychological freefall. The 5 stages of grief, except the loss was my job, my dignity, and the last shred of belief I had in the concept of merit. Denial. Did I dream that? Because honestly, it felt like something my subconscious would have cooked up during a 3 a.m. anxiety spiral fired by my brother, who used to wear Velcro shoes until he was 13, and once thought ROI was a type of cheese. I sat there refreshing my emails, as if maybe this had all been an elaborate prank and someone would send a follow-up. Subject, oops, all betrayals. Body, just kidding. You're still employed. Here's a raise. No such email came. The only thing in my inbox was a marketing newsletter from a company I forgot I subscribed to, cheerfully offering me 15% off business casual socks. Oh, the irony. Anger. I'm going to set his car on fire. And not metaphorically. Literally. I actually Googled, how illegal is arson if it's emotionally justified? Because there's just something so uniquely enraging about being fired by someone you once had to teach how to use the printer. A man who once thought a PDF was that thing that breaks Excel. I stormed around the flat like a Victorian ghost who just found out their favorite chair had been sold. I threw a cushion. I missed. Dramatically. I screamed into the void, or more accurately, into the pillow I'd once embroidered during lockdown. It says calm is a choice, it lied. Bargaining, maybe I could freelance. In the basement, quietly. Because obviously, when life implodes, the rational thing to do is negotiate with your own downfall. I thought maybe there's a loophole. Maybe I could just linger in the company, quietly, as a consultant, or an unpaid intern, or a decorative fern. I even had the gall to draft an email. Hey, no hard feelings? Happy to help from the shadows like a weird little business goblin. Thankfully, I deleted it, because dignity might be dead, but even I have limits mostly. Depression. This is my villain origin story. At this point, I entered the fleece robe era. You know the one. When you start referring to time and eras, and begin narrating your own thoughts like a tragic anti-hero. I stopped brushing my hair, started listening to haunting cello music, ate cereal out of a wine glass because I ran out of bowls and couldn't face the washing up. I dramatically turned off my phone, then just as dramatically turned it back on 6 minutes later because I remembered I'd ordered Deliveroo. I looked in the mirror and genuinely muttered, "They'll regret this." Like I was auditioning for a low-budget revenge film that would only be shown in airports and therapy, waiting rooms. Acceptance. Right, time to ruin someone's week. Now here's the thing about British grief. Eventually, it becomes project management. So I stood up, put on proper trousers, made a fresh cup of tea, strong, no sugar, just like my will to emotionally devastate. Acceptance for me didn't look like peace. It looked like strategy. Because if I've lost my job, my pride, and my faith in humanity, well, the least I can do is make sure someone else has a very bad Tuesday. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about restoring balance. And maybe, just maybe, proving that the person who spent 10 years keeping the lights on was slightly more valuable than the guy who once asked if overheads meant the ceiling lights. The phone call that echoed doom. Right, so there I was, freshly unemployed, emotionally feral, and halfway through a packet of chocolate hobnobs I didn't remember opening. And I thought, you know what this moment needs? A little corporate reckoning. So I made a phone call. Not to my mom, she'd just say have a bath and sleep on it. And not to HR. They were probably busy pretending I'd died tragically in a skydiving accident. No, I called the client. You know the one. The client. The big one. The kind that doesn't just affect your quarterly reports. They are your quarterly reports. The type of client you send Christmas hampers to in August just in case. If the company was a Jenga tower, she was the bottom block with all the weight on it. We had history. Oh, we had history. Deals made over midnight emails, tense negotiations soothed by overpriced cocktails, and one mutual near-death experience involving dodgy shellfish at an expo in Lisbon, the kind of trauma that really binds people together. Nothing says professional loyalty, like holding each other's hair, back at 3 a.m. in a hotel bathroom. So I called her, calmly, cheerfully, as if I wasn't, wearing yesterday's hoodie and sitting on a floor. Cushioned because I couldn't emotionally handle a chair. I said, "Hi, just wanted to let you know I've been let go. No hard feelings, of course. Just thought it might be good to keep you in the loop." Now the silence that followed? Poetic, symphonic. The kind of silence that makes birds stop mid-flight and clouds hesitate in the sky. You could hear the "are you joking?" without her saying a word. And then, after a long pause that might have been dramatic or just her finding her AirPods, she said, "You know what? Let me make a call too." Oh yes. Because when a client like her says, "Let me make a call," what she actually means is, I'm about to launch a chain reaction of devastation from which no quarterly earnings will recover. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't need to. I just sipped my tea like a Victorian widow whose enemies were perishing at sea. You see, it wasn't revenge, it was clarity. Because sometimes when the universe decides to spit directly in your face, it's only fair to redirect the spit a little. Share the experience. And the best part? I didn't even have to raise my voice. Didn't scream. Didn't threaten. Just made a phone call. One singular tidy little phone call. That echoed through the marble halls of corporate arrogance like the ghost of competence past. Somewhere deep in the bowels of the company's CRM, warning lights were flashing. Somewhere, my brother's smug face was about to experience something rare and beautiful. Consequence. And me? I just topped up the kettle, because this, my friend, was about to get delicious. Boardroom bloodbath. Roughly an hour after my tiny, harmless little phone call, one that definitely didn't spark a corporate meltdown or anything, the boardroom lit up like a Christmas tree made of panic and passive aggression. Emergency meeting. Not for strategy, not for innovation, and certainly not for that forward-thinking vision my brother promised in his Day One CEO speech, which included the phrase, "synergize our vertical alignment" in a sentence so meaningless it actually caused my brain to temporarily disassociate. No, this meeting was called for damage control, because apparently, losing your biggest multi-million-pound client within the first hour of your very first day as CEO is not considered good form. Shocking, I know. Now, I wasn't in the room. I wouldn't be caught dead in a room with that much cologne and performative LinkedIn energy, but I heard everything. Word gets around when an entire C-suite has an emotional stroke at the same time. One of my old mates from finance texted me, "Are you watching this slow corporate car crash? Because it's giving BAFTA." And guess who looked like a toddler caught finger painting the walls with pesto? My brother, the golden child. Or, as I now prefer to call him, the gold-plated liability. You have to understand, this man once asked if revenue was the same as profit, and now he was sitting at the head of the boardroom table, blinking in confused betrayal, like the company had mugged him. He tried to explain it, tried to say it's just one client, and which, when said in front of the people who built their entire careers off that one account, went down about as well as a fart in a lift. There was shouting, there was swearing. Someone threw a pen, possibly at his head. I wasn't there, but in my dreams, it hits him square between the eyes and bounces off with a satisfying thunk. And the best part? Every excuse he tried just made it worse. He said he didn't know I had that level of connection with the client. He said it wasn't personal, just a business decision. He said I didn't fit the new company culture. Culture? Mate, you are the culture, and the culture is crumbling, like a stale flapjack under pressure. Apparently, he even tried to blame me for sabotage, as if I'd planted a virus in the CRM or orchestrated a multi-level takedown like a tech-savvy Bond villain in sweatpants. Newsflash, I didn't have to sabotage anything. You did that all on your own with your shiny suit and LinkedIn quote energy. The board wasn't buying it. These were people who spoke fluent backstabbery and budget slashing. They could smell weakness like sharks in a water cooler full of blood, and what they saw in my brother was a mess in a very expensive tie. By the end of that meeting, he wasn't just sweating, he was glossy. And not in a confident, GQ cover kind of way. No, in a please don't fire me, like I just fired my only competent sibling kind of way. I like to imagine he went home that day, sat in the dark with a glass of Tesco's own brand red, and whispered to himself, I might have miscalculated. Because yes, actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences wear pajamas, sip tea, and watch your downfall unfold in real time while eating Jaffa cakes, demoted and emotionally devastated. So, after the board finished tearing my brother a new one in the nicest, most passive-aggressive, executive language possible, misjudgment in leadership trajectory, inadequate stakeholder retention strategy, utter catastrophe in a suit, they did what all deeply serious corporate people do when they need to fix a mess but still save face. They created a brand new job title. Not a real one, obviously. No, this was the business world's version of go sit in the corner and color quietly while the grown-ups talk. Junior Strategic Outreach Liaison. Translation, PowerPoint monkey. Job description, make slides. Send emails no one reads. Smile in meetings like you understand what client-facing synergy streamlining means. You know, all the thrilling glamour of a job in corporate without any of the actual power or dignity. Oh, and they moved him into a new office. Office is generous. It's a glorified cupboard, the room where they keep the spare Ethernet cables, an ancient laser printer, and Steve from facilities who eats boiled eggs at 10 a.m. and makes eye contact the entire time. He now shares a desk, yes, shares, with the guy who refills the paper towel dispensers. And Steve? Steve's not thrilled about it. Steve liked his alone time. Steve had a chair groove. Now my brother's in there, trying to schedule team synergy touchpoints while Steve's just trying to do his Sudoku in peace. The man who, just 48 hours ago, was strutting around like a discount Bond villain in a Madeleine blazer, now spends his afternoons choosing corporate stock. Photos of people high-fiving near glass walls. Last week, I heard he gave a presentation to marketing on innovative engagement funnels. They clapped politely. Someone yawned audibly. It was magnificent. And the best part? The board didn't fire him. Oh no, firing would have been merciful. They left him there, in limbo, a career purgatory with harsh, fluorescent lighting and coffee that tastes like betrayal. Because nothing says we believe in your potential, quite like demoting you to an invented position and hoping you quietly melt into the office carpet. Oh, how the mighty have been reduced. From future face of the company to guy who updates the team building spreadsheet. I won't lie to you, I had a celebratory donut, and I ate it slowly, in silence, like a woman who's just watched the season finale of Karma, the comeback nobody asked for. So the natural question at this point is, did you go back to the company? Oh God, no. What do you take me for? Someone with a martyr complex and a passion for being underpaid and open plan trauma? No, I did the unthinkable. I moved on. I started something of my own. Just me, a secondhand laptop, 3 years of trauma-based experience, and an aggressively overpriced coffee subscription I couldn't justify but emotionally needed. I wasn't aiming for a grand empire or viral LinkedIn humble brag. I just wanted something functional. Something that didn't involve being fired by someone who once called a spreadsheet intimidating. And guess what happened? The clients followed. Not just a few, not just some sympathetic stragglers with guilt complexes. No, all of them. Apparently being trustworthy, competent, and not a sentient human LinkedIn post still counts for something. Who knew? Even the Lisbon one. Ah yes, the Lisbon client. The one with the matching hangovers and the unspoken trauma. Bond formed over poorly translated seafood menus in hotel. Wi-Fi that worked like it hated you. She called me the very next day and said, and I quote, I trust you not to ruin my company or my week. That's rare. You're hired. And just like that, I had a business. An actual business. With clients. Plural. With invoices I didn't need to chase. Contracts written in English, not buzzword hieroglyphics. And meetings that involved getting things done instead of aggressively nodding at each other for an hour before achieving nothing. Meanwhile, over at HQ, my brother was busy making animated pie charts for a strategic outreach alignment that no one would read, in a department that now had fewer staff than the office fridge had expired yogurts. I imagine him opening PowerPoint, staring blankly, and wondering how life spiraled so quickly, all while Steve from Facilities punched Egg Mayo and judged him silently from across the room. I didn't gloat. Okay, that's a lie. I gloated internally, with the smugness of a cat that knocked over a vase and watched you clean it up. I never said a word, but my silence had a very specific tone. Oops. Guess you should have kept the only competent sibling. No press release. No dramatic re-entrance. Just quiet success like revenge in a cashmere jumper. Because the best comebacks aren't loud. They're just better. Family dinners just got spicy. The sacred ritual of family dinner. Once a monthly gathering of polite small talk and tragically overcooked lamb. Now a thrilling episode of passive aggression. The musical. You haven't truly lived until you've watched your mother refold a napkin with malice. My brother sits at the table like he's still the crown prince of something that matters, beaming with all the empty confidence of a man whose job title was cooked up by the same people who name IKEA furniture. He says things like, "We're pivoting toward solution-based synergies," which, if you're not fluent in corporate nonsense, roughly translates to, "I Googled words and stitched them." Together with blind hope, Dad, the man who once looked at me and said, "You're the glue that holds this company together," now avoids eye contact like I'm an unpaid tax bill. He just focuses on the roast potatoes, aggressively so, overseasons them like he's trying to bury the guilt under layers of paprika and emotional repression. And Mom? Bless her, she means well. In the same way a cat bringing you a dead pigeon is technically a gift. Every dinner without fail. Maybe it's time you just let it go, right? Because betrayal, public humiliation, and watching your career get torched by your own gene pool is just a minor inconvenience, like a flat tire or a long queue at Greg's. I don't let it go. I sip my wine. I inhale my wine, like it's a rare Greek tragedy aged in a bottle, because what else am I supposed to do while my brother blathers on about team optimization, and Mom tries to guilt me into making peace over overcooked carrots? Let me be clear. I'm not angry. I'm historically aware. I'm a collector of receipts and quiet cutting comebacks. I don't raise my voice. I raise my eyebrow. I weaponize silence. You think I'm going to let that go? Absolutely not. I've made peace with the pettiness. I've embroidered it into my emotional DNA. And the irony? Now that I'm successful, they treat me like a quirky side character in their story, like I'm the moody one with strong opinions and a tax-efficient business model. No one dares actually say sorry, of course not. That would be mature. Instead, we dance around it. Dad offers me more potatoes. Mom tells me I look tired in a good way. My brother throws in casual jabs about how hard the corporate world is when you're really in it. Sure, mate. Tell that to Steve from Facilities. So yes, family dinners are a treat now. A slow roast of tension, garnished with subtle digs and emotional landmines. I wouldn't miss them for the world. Because revenge might be a dish best served cold. But resentment is absolutely delicious with gravy. Closure, but make it petty. So here I am. The official former employee of the family company. Unemployed? No. Fired? Technically, yes. Bitter immaculately. You see, I've moved on, but only in the way a cat moves on. From a scratched sofa, by sitting on it smugly, making sure you never forget who owns the damn thing. I'm the queen of this particular patch of emotional upholstery. And I wear my resentment like a crown. Polished, pristine, absolutely unapologetic. My brother? Oh, bless. He's still there. Somewhere in the labyrinth of strategic outreach and whatever that means. To him it means Googling synonyms for initiative and hoping no one notices the void where actual leadership should be. He's the corporate equivalent of that guy who thinks if he just nods enough in meetings, people will stop asking questions. Spoiler, they don't. Meanwhile, I answer my own phone now. No gatekeepers. No passive-aggressive emails CC'd to the whole team. Just me, my terrible Spotify playlists, and clients who actually know what they're paying for. And the best part? I don't have to pretend the whole family business wasn't just a glorified soap opera with bad lighting. Closure, you ask? It's not some neat little bow on a tragic tale. It's a slow, delicious simmer of "I told you so," served in a sarcastic smirk and a perfectly timed read receipt. It's the quiet joy of watching someone trip over their own buzzwords while you're busy building an empire out of common sense and actual talent. So yes, closure, but make it petty, because if you're going to be cast out, Make sure you leave a mess that smells suspiciously like victory. And honestly, that's enough for me for now.